Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at recently named winter storm at Odell, which is currently sitting over southern West Virginia, and it's going to be moving to the north and east, producing some pretty heavy snowfall through parts of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and through Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. All those states are going to be seeing a lot of snowfall. Some areas could see 6, 12, 12 to 18 even, and then even some areas, the National Weather Service is even showing over 40 inches of snowfall from some lake effect bands that are going to be impacting parts of upstate New York, and that's something you rarely ever see. So we're going to be talking about that as well as we get later on in the video. I'm also going to be showing you my updated winter storm Odell forecast, which is going to be including snowfall and rainfall at the end of the video. So let's start off here with what the National Weather Service is showing. You have winter weather advisories over parts of Indiana, Ohio, and into parts of southern Michigan. We also have winter weather advisories through parts of the Appalachians, through North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland even, and into parts of Pennsylvania. Now we also have winter weather advisories there over parts of upstate New York, through southern and northern Vermont, and then kind of on the eastern side of Maine and on the southern side of New Hampshire, and then winter storm warnings already in effect for parts of northern New Hampshire and Maine, and I do expect these will be expanded to a larger region covering northern upstate New York and into northern Vermont as well. Now, we do have blizzard warnings in this red or kind of orange shade here over parts of upstate New York near Watertown. Those are the areas that could receive 40 plus inches of snowfall. The National Weather Service showing up to 46 inches according to their forecast over some areas in northwestern upstate New York. It's going to be a really brutal conditions. You already have blizzard warnings in effect, and honestly, I've never seen 46 inches being forecasted anywhere that's not in the mountainous regions of the Pacific Northwest. That's really the only time you ever see those 46, 48-inch amounts. But you're seeing that over upstate New York, and you're going to have this one band of lake effect that it's probably going to move about south of Watertown, New York, and you're going to see some pretty heavy bands of snowfall just pummel through that area. As well, you have Odell that's going to be training up the eastern seaboard, and you're going to see that really heavy snowfall just hammer that area. So it's going to be really the perfect setup for some pretty good snow over those areas. Wind advisories also in effect, kind of scattered here through the eastern United States, and through really from Maine through down into Georgia and South Carolina, seeing those wind advisories. But that's just for some 30, 40 mile per hour winds there. Now, here's your surface analysis map. You have your low pressure system over southern West Virginia right now, and it's going to be moving to the north and east, moving through really the spine of the Appalachians until it hits about the Pennsylvania, New York line, and then I think it's going to kind of move to the east until it hits about Boston, and then move out to sea. Now, here's what the Storm Prediction Center is showing for today as far as its convective outlook, and this would be for today, showing a general thunderstorm risk all the way up until about Boston, and then basically westward until you hit the Appalachians, and then a marginal risk there for southeastern Pennsylvania, much of Maryland, much of Virginia, and into eastern West Virginia, as well as the central and southern part there of Florida, seeing a marginal risk. You only have a 5% chance risk. You don't have any chance of a tornado, less than 2% for all areas, as well as hail, less than 5% for all areas. But for wind, you have a 5% chance there in southeastern Pennsylvania, much of Maryland, into much of central Virginia, and then into eastern West Virginia, as well as, again, central and southern Florida there with a 5% chance of seeing some wind damage within a 25-mile radius of your location. Now, here's the Europeans' forecast and its perspective on what's going to happen, and then we're also going to show you the National Weather Service predicted snowfall totals, and then also my predicted snowfall totals at the end of the video. So here is what's going to currently, pretty much what's happening right now. You've seen a changeover of snow for many areas, originally starting as rain, then changing over to snow, and you're going to have this very cold air on the backside, potentially a brutal cold air attack that's going to be moving from parts of north northern Canada, you're starting to see this pattern weakening, but it's still a very strong pattern that's been in effect for almost 10 weeks now. It's almost crazy how long this has been in effect. Really, since late December, it's been in effect. So now getting into Wednesday night, you're starting to see very heavy snow train through western New York and western Pennsylvania. You still have that most of the bulk of the snow through Canada into Ontario and southernmost Quebec. Now, getting into Thursday morning, you're starting to see that heavy snow. That's where really this area is where you're going to see those 40-inch amounts, according to the National Weather Service and a few of these models as well. You're seeing some pretty good amounts or pretty good snowfall rates there of about maybe an inch or two per hour, and that's definitely going to create those visibilities reducing. You're also going to have a lot of winds coming in as you have a deepening low pressure system over parts of Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and through New Jersey, where I do think that's really where it's going to hit its peak of intensity, and that's really going to shell out a lot of snowfall over those areas as well as a lot of wind. This would be by Thursday morning. Now getting to your Thursday afternoon and evening time period, and you're seeing most of the bulk of the heavy snow over northern Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Still a little bit of snow there for the Adirondacks of upstate New York, and then you start to see that lake effect, and look at that band of lake effect. I just want you to see this. You're still in snow by Thursday morning. Now look at this band of lake effect moving from Thursday night, and as we continue this, not breaking down until you hit about Saturday morning. So you could be in snow for about 2 days. Add on whatever you get from Winter Storm Odell, and it's not surprising that you're seeing those very high amounts of snowfall. Now, here's what the European is showing, and the European will move it out so that you can see what that band of lake effect did, and you see those blues. That's indicating 30 to 40 inches of snowfall, and the National Weather Service actually has higher amounts. The European model and the National Weather Service have backed down on the western New York, northwest Pennsylvania area, seeing 10 or seeing yesterday they were showing 15, 16 inches. They backed down on that, like I said, I thought they would, and I definitely think my forecast is held up pretty good in those areas. Still some isolated 12-inch amounts of those areas, but really the bulk of the snow happening over northern Maine, New Hampshire, and then where you get that lake effect band to set up, which we have pretty good agreement that it's going to set up over northern upstate New York and generally in this area that I'm circling with my cursor right now. So here's what the National Weather Service is showing, and you see anywhere in that darker blue, that's where you're seeing anywhere from about 42 to about 50 inches of snowfall. The maximum on this map is showing about 46.8 inches. So the National Weather Service is showing up to about just under 4 feet of snowfall. Some of these locations, pretty tremendous. Now, as you get more with what's going to be happening with Winter Storm Odell, you have about 6 to 12 inches through northern New Hampshire and northern Maine as well. This is all from Winter Storm Odell for the most part. A little bit lake enhanced, but still most of it coming from Winter Storm Odell, and you're seeing some amounts of about 15, 16 inches, but definitely not as widespread as they were yesterday, and a little bit further inland and not right on the Great Lakes. Now, let's start getting into what I'm forecasting as far as snowfall and rainfall, as well as my storm track forecast. Now, this is going to be a storm going from the 26th, which would be today, all the way until the 28th, which would be about the Friday time period. Now, your storm track, again, it's going to be moving through the spine of the Appalachians until it hits the about northeast Pennsylvania, southwest or southern upstate New York border, and then it's going to move pretty much straight east there until it hits Boston. Now, let's add your first layer. Under an inch of snowfall can be expected here, anywhere from about Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, through the Appalachians, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. All seeing under an inch of snowfall there. Now, as you get out into Illinois, Indiana, western Ohio, southern Michigan, Kentucky, it's going to be starting to wrap up by now and then, starting to move out into the northeast. But it's still going on over those areas, and I just don't want to rule out the chance that you could get another trace or so, or a little bit more extra accumulation onto what you've already seen from this system. Now, 1 to 3 inches here through parts of the Appalachians there from Pennsylvania to about easternmost Kentucky and Tennessee, as well as westernmost Virginia and North Carolina. We also have another area there for parts of eastern Indiana, northern Ohio, easternmost Michigan, and into areas in northwest Pennsylvania, much of upstate New York, and then through Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, all seeing 1 to 3 inches of expected snowfall. 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, again, there for the Appalachians, and a couple of those higher mountaintops could see 6+ inches in the West Virginia foothills. Now, as you get into parts of the Northeast, through Northeast Ohio, Northwest Pennsylvania, Western and Northern upstate New York, and into Northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, all seeing 3 to 6 inches of expected snowfall, and 6 to 12 inches here over a pretty good area from Northwest Pennsylvania through about the Western New York area and the lake effect regions, and then through Northeast Vermont, through Northern New Hampshire, and into Northern Maine could all be expecting 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. Now, 12 to 18 inches of snowfall through westernmost New York, and also that trained lake effect band that looks to set up, and then as well for eastern parts of Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and into northern Maine there. Now, I do want to point out you do have the chance for some isolated 18+ inches of snowfall through parts of northern New Hampshire and northern Maine. Also, as you get those higher mountain tops in central New Hampshire and central Maine, you could also see isolated 18+ inches. So Mount Washington, I believe the National Weather Service is showing about 20 inches or so. We'll switch back to the National Weather Service. Right here, that would be Mount Washington, about 20 inches of snowfall. So again, those higher mountain peaks, of course, can see a little bit more snowfall, over 18 inches. Definitely not out of the question for some of those higher elevations. Now, scattered 24 to 48 inches of snowfall, and mainly I think it's going to be 24 to 36. Where you get just south of Watertown, New York, that's where I think you're going to be in that trained lake effect band for about 2 or 3 days that could dump 48 or more inches of snowfall. So definitely a very dangerous situation that you need to be aware of. Now, let's add your first layer of rain and your last layer of rainfall here. Now, this is going to be your under an inch layer, so anything up to an inch of rainfall. The rain is really going to be precluding as we get throughout the evening hours, and then getting into Friday. It should be pretty much wrapping up through Tennessee, Kentucky, northern Mississippi, and northern Alabama. Expect under an inch of rainfall as well there for the eastern seaboard, where I am expecting under an inch of rainfall. But pretty much you are going to have a little bit of a dry slot there through Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, where I actually don't expect any precipitation or just some minimal rain that's not going to cause too many troubles on the roadways. Now, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli with Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.